All right, starting with number 39 on the 7th grade math semester exam review. We're going to start where we left off, so we're going to go quickly, but as I stated, just pause or replay or rewind, whatever you need to do to make sure you get these notes and how to do it. And remember, the test does not have these questions. These questions are not on the exam, so the important thing is to know how to do each concept. So just see that as the big picture. You need to know how to estimate integers, how to use compatible numbers. You need to know how to compare fractions and convert fractions and decimals and percents, being able to divide fractions, multiply fractions and decimals, just being able to do everything. This is just basically a guide to make sure you know how to do the concepts. So don't pay so close attention to the answer, except to check your answer, but also look at how you do it. You need to be looking at the notes that I write down, or the work that I do, or even checking. But just keep in mind it's the concepts that's the important, not these specific answers on this test review. All right, starting with number 39, it says to add, but then it says estimate to check whether the answer makes sense. All right, so when I'm adding decimals, I line up my decimals, and I got 38.8. And then estimating to check, 31.9 rounds to 32, 6.9 rounds to 7. That gives me 39. Now that rules out B and C, so that leaves it between A and D, and you just need to be able to add those up. All right, number 40, subtract and then estimate to check. Subtract, again, you got to line them up. I got 3.7. When I estimated, I got 91 minus 88 equals 3. So it wasn't going to be B or C again. It was between A and D. Just subtract. All right, when I'm multiplying decimals, like on number 41, I multiply like the decimals aren't there. Once I get my answer, then I move however many decimal places are in the numbers I'm multiplying. So here I had 2 here. There were none here. So 2 from the right, I moved the decimal, negative 49.06. And then go ahead and estimate to check. I know that this is between 4 and 5, so it's probably between 44 and 55, right? So it's not going to be this one, and it's not going to be this one. And I know it's negative because I have different signs, negative, and if I multiplied it, I got the right answer there. All right, number 42, divide, estimate to check. So estimating, I know it's going to be around 8 because I can make compatible numbers. 32 divided by 4 is 8. So I know it's a little bit more than 8. So make sure when you're dividing decimals, the decimal goes straight up. And then you divide like normal. And I got 8.302. Number 43, dividing decimals. Cannot have a decimal on the outside number. So I'm going to move that to the end to make it a whole number. But if I move it on the outside, I got to move it on the inside and then move it up. And I also know it's different signs, so I know it's negative. Keep that in mind because it's testing your knowledge of integers as well as the division. So I know it's negative, so that rules out B and D. And then just estimate. 76 divided by 4, just make it 80 divided by 4. 80 divided by 4 is 20, right? So that makes sense that it's 20. It does not make sense that it's 2. So just please use common sense and estimate to check. All right, moving on, number 44. This is an equation, so I'm going to try to isolate my P. To get rid of this plus 12.517, I subtract it from both sides, and C is my answer. I have 1.57 minus 12.517, and the only one that makes sense is a negative 10. So just think positive 1 minus 12 is going to be in this territory right here. It's the only answer choice that is reasonable. All right, number 45, excuse my mess here. It says a train stops at Atherton. I'm just naming them A, B, C. Atherton, then Belmont, then Carson. The distance from Atherton to Carson, the whole way, was 13 total. The distance from A to B is 10 2/3, so estimate the distance from B to C. So if the whole thing's 13, this is about 10 1/2. I just need to estimate this. 10 2/3 are rounded to 10 1/2, so get 2.5 miles for the rest of that trip, just the small part of that trip. All right, number 46, we get into fractions. Important to remember when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator. 46, they're already there. So you just add them. Remember, we don't add the bottom number. We don't add the denominator because we're saying how many 6 do we have total. We have 1 of the 6 here, 3 of the 6 here. So add those together. How many 6? I have 4 6, which reduces to 2/3. Number 47. We need to add these fractions. We need a common denominator. I got 56 for the denominator. Change the numerators, make them equivalent. Make 3/8 equivalent to a fraction over 56. Has to be 21. What did I do? From the 8 to the 56, I multiplied by 7, so do 3 times 7 to get that numerator to get your equivalent fraction. Do the same thing with the second fraction, then you can add when you have common denominators, and got 53 over 56. All right, number 48. I've got some mixed numbers that I'm adding for the total of the stack. So what I did was took the whole numbers out, 2 and 2, and I put that on the side. I knew that there's going to be 4 at least feet in this stack of boxes. So then I'm just going to do the fractions, 2/3 plus 6/7, and I got a common denominator of 21. Changed my numerators, added it, got 32 over 21, which changes to 1 and 11/21, and I added the 4 wholes, so that gives me 5 and 11 over 21. All right, number 49. In 2001, bus fare on the Metro bus was $4. 1975, the fare was half of that. So what was that fare? So bottom line, here it is. I'm looking for half of $4. That's simple. Look at your other answer choices and just compare it and make sure it makes some sense. This was pretty simple. I'm looking for half of, and remember what of means. It means multiply. But half is easy to get, so I'm just doing half of $4. All right, number 50. Division, you need to remember this. Multiply the reciprocal when you divide fractions. So I have 3/10, and I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to flip that second fraction. That's called a reciprocal. Now, so I have 3/10 times 14 over 13. Now, I could just multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms, and then reduce, but I did some cross-reducing instead. So I'm reducing before I multiply instead of after. You're going to get the same answer either way. So I did the cross-reducing, and I got 21 over 65. All right, number 51. The only added step is that you need to change to improper fractions first. Then you'll multiply the reciprocal. And I got 36 over 55. All right, onward, number 52. W minus 2/7 equals 2/3. I need to isolate my W, so I need to get rid of that minus 2/7, so I'm going to do the opposite operation. So plus 2/7 on both sides. So here's the problem that I need to work to solve for W. So I need a common denominator, change the numerators. I got 20 over 21. Number 53. Summer baseball leagues got 36 13-year-olds, 48 14-year-olds. Write the ratio of 13 to 14-year-olds. The order is important. So they want 13 to 14-year-olds, so I've got to make sure I do 36 to 48. And then I reduced it, dividing by 12, and got 3 to 4. Now, you notice in the answer choices they have 4 to 3 here, so you just be real careful that you're doing it in the right order. Go back and check. Doing it 13 to 14-year-olds, not the other way around. Number 54, same thing. This is a little bit trickier because you're not told how much they lost. You're told, though, that they won 30 more games than they lost. So if they won 130, they lost 100. And then you're going to write that ratio of wins first to losses. So that's 13 to 10 when it's reduced. All right, unit rate. 55, you can get 640 calories from eating 8 apples. How many calories from 1 apple? So you're just going to divide, and you get 80 calories per apple. Excuse me. All right, number 56. Ignacio is going on vacation. He needs to drive, and to make this there was a typo on this number. So we're going to change this number to 536 miles in 8 hours. So what's his average speed in miles per hour? That's just a unit rate, and we're just going to divide. 536 divided by 8 will give us 67 miles per hour. If you use the original number, you got 70-something. Yeah, so 72 and 3/8. So 72 plus miles per hour, and that's speeding. So I'm pretty sure that's a typo. And plus, there's no answer choices that are 72 plus. All right, number 57. Are these ratios proportional? A couple of ways we can figure out if they're proportional. Cross products are equal in a proportion. Or we can reduce to the same ratio. These reduce to 2/3 and then this one reduced to 5/9. Those aren't the same. If they're not the same, they're not proportional. On number 58, they are proportional. This reduced to 2/5, which is the same as this one. So remember, proportion is two equivalent ratios. Have to be equivalent to each other. So it's like equivalent fractions. If they're not equivalent, if the cross products aren't the same, then they're not proportional. All right, 59. We are going to use cross products to solve this proportion, even though I could do it without it because I see that there is a multiply by 10 here to get there. So there's a number multiplied by 10 to get 88. That's kind of easy. But let's go ahead and do the cross products. We take our proportion and we multiply the cross product that we know. It's 528. And then we're going to divide, working backwards, divide by 60 to get the other number that we're missing. Number 60, the Anderson family is preparing for a family reunion. They think they're going to need 22 juice boxes for every 6 kids. So how many juice boxes for 12 kids? So it looks like we're doubling the kids, so we need to double the juice boxes. That makes sense. Set up your proportion and look at the other answer choices. It's just 22 boxes. You think they need the same amount of juice for doubling the kids? Somebody's going to be crying. And then B, like I said, this is going to be really messy if you give these kids this much juice. Yeah, they're going to need to go to the bathroom a lot. It's probably the same with D. So use your common sense when you're looking at these answer choices. If we just double the kids, we're just going to double the juice. It's that simple. Number 61. Choose the most appropriate customary unit. Customary. So we're not doing metric, so that immediately gets rid of C. That's the metric system, not customary system. And we're looking at amount of water in a bathtub. Fluid ounces. Yeah, you do that. Too small. Cups, way too small still. And gallons is the most appropriate choice. All right, number 62. Converting 704 ounces to pounds. Well, the first thing I need to know is how many ounces in 1 pound. Now, there's 16 ounces in a pound. Think of babies. Don't get it confused with fluid ounces, 8 ounces in a cup. This is 16 ounces in a pound. So to find out how many pounds are in 704 ounces, I'm just going to divide and get 44 pounds. All right, we're on the home stretch, guys. Come on, number 63. Tell whether triangle ABC and triangle XYZ are similar. The measures of the corresponding angles are equal. So that's your given. All right, so we're going to look at the corresponding sides. And I drew little lines connecting the corresponding sides. So 20 goes with 7, 15 goes with 5, 12 goes with 4. And I reduced what I could. I could only reduce a couple of them. They were the same. But 20 over 7 is my problem here. Now, have this been 21 over 7, that would reduce to 3 over 1, and it would be proportional. But because of that 0 instead of the 1, it makes it not proportional. So it's not similar. All right, number 64. Tell whether this parallelogram ABCD and parallelogram WXYZ are similar. And the measures of the corresponding angles are equal. That's important to know with similar figures. The opposite sides are equal. All right, so 12 goes with 9, 8 goes with 6, so I can set up my proportion that way. Or 12 over 9 reduces to 4/3, and 8 over 6 reduces to 4/3. I could also set up proportions and see if the cross products are equal. Just all you're making sure is that these two figures are proportional to see if they're similar. All right, number 65, a couple of notes here. This little wavy line means similar to. So triangle ABC is similar to XYZ, and that means they are proportional. That's your given. If they are similar, they're proportional. So we need to find out what XY is. We're looking for this one right here. So 17 goes with the 8.5. The 16.5 goes with this. So I did 17 over 8.5 with the corresponding sides, and then 16.5 over X. And then I can do cross products, and then divide by 17, or I could just kind of tell that this is 17 over 8.5 is 2 over 1. 8.5 is 1/2 the size of 17. So right here, X is going to be half the size of 16.5, or half that length. so 8.25. But please go ahead and just be real careful with your proportions. Go ahead and do cross products and then divide by 17. Now let's take a look at these characteristics of similar figures, which you need to know. In similar figures, they are the same shape. I mean exactly the same shape, not just kind of the same shape, but exactly the same shape. They're just maybe different sizes. The corresponding sides are proportional. That's one of the things we're talking about with proportions. Similar figures, the corresponding sides are proportional. And the corresponding angles are equal or congruent. So that's a given, that those corresponding angles are going to be the same. The corresponding sides aren't going to be the same. They are going to be proportional. All right, number 66. The front of Jane's house is similar in shape. So similar is my key word. The base of the doghouse is 5. Height is 6. The height of Jane's house is 30. So what's the length of the base? So we're going to set up this proportion. There's multiple ways you could set up your proportion. 30 goes with 6 as x goes with 5. Or 30 goes with x as 6 goes with 5. You just have to set up your proportion correctly, putting your corresponding sides or figures together. So I got 25 feet when I solved for that one. Alrighty, number 67, this is scale factor. The important thing about scale factor to remember is that it's a ratio, and the top number are the scale's dimensions, and the bottom number is the original object's dimensions. And the important thing to remember is that they must be in the same units. This trips y'all up every time. This says the model of the train engine is 36 inches and the actual engine is 24 feet. So what's that scale factor? Well, I have to either change to feet or to inches, both of those, and get 1/8 of the size. Now, if you answered B, you're telling me that the model is bigger than the actual train engine, and that's quite a model. I'm not sure we have a Christmas tree that big that would fit that. All right, let's get into these percents now, and this is just some simple conversion. 0.93 is almost 1 whole, so make sure your percent equivalent is almost 100%. Make sure you rule out those other ones. This isn't even 10%. This isn't even 1%, and that's way, way, way tiny, less than 1%. So that just doesn't make sense. So make sure it makes some sense. 7/10 as a percent, more than a half. So I know that my percentage is going to be more than a half, but not quite a whole. So 70% is the only one that makes sense. You could do top in, bottom out, change to a decimal, and then move it over. Or you could write your fraction as another fraction with 100 as the denominator, and that top number would give you your percentage. All right, number 70, use a fraction to estimate 8% of 62. Too messy, so I want to estimate. So I'm going to change that to 10%, which is 1/10 of 60. I can just move that decimal 1 to the left for 6. All right, number 71, find 30% of 70. 30% of 70, so less than half of 70. So keep that big picture in mind. I'm going to use my percent over 100 equals is over of or part of the whole. So I have 30% over 100% equals some number, which is representing the 30% out of 70. So I can use this, but there's only one answer choice that really makes sense. I can multiply this out, and that's 2100, and then divide by 100 to get 21. But obviously it's not A or C, because that wouldn't be just a part of 70. Those are just too big. That's ridiculous. So it's between B and D. All right, number 72, 70% of 90. Again, it's a little bit more than half of 90, so make sure your answer makes sense. It can't be C or B. That just doesn't make any sense at all, that a part of 90 would be bigger than it. All right, so we just multiply, get 6,300, and then divide by 100 for 63. All right, 73, same percentage formula that I'm going to use here. 39 is what percent of 80? So the percent is what I'm looking for. The is 39, 80 is the of. 39 is a little bit less than half, so I'm looking for a percentage that's a little bit less than 50%. So that's the only one that makes sense. Now you could do your cross products, but on this I really just need some common sense. All right, let's finish this up. Number 74, what percent of 146 is 39? So is over of, percent over 100. You can use your cross products. but it looks like 26.71 is the only one. That's about 1/4. 39 is about 1/4 of this. That makes some sense. All right, 75 is percent of change. That's the amount of the change over the original amount. It went from 40 to 83, so it more than doubled. So it was more than 100% of that 40. So I know it's going to be one of these, and obviously it's an increase. So it's going to be the increase. This is saying only half of the 40 would increase or decrease. So just make sure you use the formula. Amount of the change was 43 units over the original amount of 40, and that turns into 1.075, and you change that to a percent, you get this. And number 76, the price of a train ticket from Orlando to Atlanta is normally $118. However, the train company is offering a special 75% discount to children under the age of 16. So what's the sale price of a ticket from Orlando to Atlanta for someone under the age of 16? So what's the kid's price? Now, at first, I did this wrong. I did 75% over 100 equals is over 118, and I got that total of $88.50, but that's not the cost of the ticket. That's the discount. So subtract that from 118 to get your $29.50, and that's how much the kid's going to pay. All right, you need to study this review. Go over anything that's your weekend. Email me. Look in your online textbook. Do some interactive quizzes, but come prepared for your test. And come ready to show off what you know. And I hope to see some good grades.